In this video, I'm going to show you how to splice Samson Arborfreak rope. Arborfreak is a standard 16 strand rope. Comes in a variety of colors. This is the pine version. Also comes in a redwood and a Danube color version. Arborfreak is a new name for an old rope that Samson has made for a long time. It used to be called Arbormaster, which also came in several different colors. But they're all the same kind of rope, and you splice them using the same basic techniques. There are a few tricks that I use that make this a little bit easier to do, and I'll show you those in this video. Okay, so the tools you're going to need to do this splice are a tape measure, a little marlin spike like this, a felt tip marker, a pair of needle nose pliers, a pair of scissors, and then you're going to need a couple of wire fids. There's a short wire fid like this and a long wire fid. This is a 36-inch long wire fid. I get these from Mark at Fids and Fibers. You can make your own if you want. But those are the basic tools that you need. Oh, you also need, at least I use, a little bit of thread and a needle to make the marks on my rope when I'm doing the layout for the splice. The other thing that comes in handy is a block like this with a pin on it. I just clamp this in my vise, and I can use this pin to wrap the rope around when I'm pulling on it. Okay. Okay, to start the splice, you have to do your layout, and for that you need a tape measure. You're going to make 4 marks on the rope for the layout. The first mark is going to be 28 inches up the rope from the end of the rope. And I like to use string to make these marks just because I don't like to leave a bunch of ugly black marks on my rope. So you just pull the string through and leave a little piece in there like that. Okay, so that's mark 1. Mark 2 is going to be, this is going to be your eye right here, okay? And I'm going to do a tight eye. And I know from experience that I need about 4 inches of rope for a tight eye. So I'm going to measure up 4 inches from that first mark to mark 2. So that's mark 2. Okay, from mark 2, I'm going to measure up 22 inches to mark 3. And then from mark 3, I'm going to measure up 11 inches to mark 4. And then from mark 4, I'm going to go up about a foot or so, and I'm going to tie an alpine butterfly. This just keeps the rope, the core and the cover, from moving above that point, from moving relative to each other. So just do an alpine butterfly. This just acts as a stopper knot to keep things from moving above that point. All right, so now we're going to go back down to mark 1 that we made down here, and we're going to do our cover, our layout marks on the cover for the taper on the cover. And I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing there. So the cover layout from mark 1 here, you mark 5 pairs of strands at 5 strand intervals to be removed. So you can start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and mark that pair. Mark 5 and mark another pair. Mark a 3rd pair. Mark a 4th pair, and there's our 5th pair. So those are the marks that we're going to remove these strands later to do the taper on the cover. The next step is to go up the rope to mark 3 and remove the core strands from the cover strands. So here's mark 1, mark 2, go up here to mark 3, okay? And we're going to remove the core strands from the cover strands. To do that, I use my small wire fid. I just shove it in there at mark 3. You can get rid of that string now. Just push it down in there between two of the cover strands and pry back and expose the core strands, okay? I then take my little wire fit or my little marten spike and I go in there and I grab those core strands with the marten spike and I just start prying them up out of there, and I bend the rope sharply as I do that, pry back with my fingernails like that until those strands start working their way up out of the core or out of the cover. You don't have to get, there are a total of 8 of these core strands. You don't have to get them all at the same time, but get as many as you can and pry them up out of there. All right. You have to pry fairly hard to get them to come out of there. They'll. Okay, there we go. See? Okay, just start pulling them out of there like that and keep them nice and neat as much as you can. Pull them out. And again, there are 8 of these core strands. So count after you get them out of there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got all 8 of them. If you don't get all 8 on the first go, it's not a big deal. Just pull them back, go in and get the rest after you're done. That's the core strands. Now we're going to do the taper up here on these 5 strands, or 5 pairs of strands that we marked earlier. And the first couple of these, we're going to start up here at the top, pulling them out. The first couple are pretty tight and hard to get out. After that, it gets progressively easier. But you just take your marten spike, stick it in under the first one, get it up just a little bit. I'll zoom in a little here so you can see what I'm doing better. All right, so once you pry that out of there like that, take your pliers, your needle nose pliers, and grab those strands and pull this way, away from the end of the rope. It's really important on this that you pull in this direction. Don't pull from this direction or you'll bunch up your eye hair and ruin your splice. So now I'm going to take this, again, just pull it out a little bit like that. Then we're going to go over here to our block and we're going to use it to help us pull these strands out of there. All right, so just take your pliers and hook this one strand around that pin, and you can then use the pin by wrapping it twice around the pin. You can use it to hold that while you pull on it like that, okay? And then milk the cover strands as you pull on the strand that you're pulling out. Milk the cover strands down. And again, be really careful to pull away from the end of the rope. Don't pull the other direction or you'll ruin your splice. Once you get enough cord here, you can use your hands as opposed to the pliers. Okay, there's the first strand. After the first one, they get progressively easier. So just take it around that pin, pull, then double wrap it as soon as you can, and use that pin to help you pull. Milk the cover as you pull the strands out. So there's the first 2. You can see what I mean about them getting easier after the first one, or first two. It gets really easy to get them out. Okay, there's first two pairs, third pair. After this, you don't even really need the pin. You can just pull them with your hands. And the last pair. Okay, so there are 5 pairs pulled out, and they're quite long. You don't really need all that, so we'll just cut about 6 or 7 inches out here. We'll cut them off. And that's just garbage. The next step is to bury our tapered core in here at Mark 2. Okay, so this is the eye right there, okay? So we're going to go in at Mark 2, and we're going to come out all the way up here at Mark 3. To do that, I use my long fid. And I clamp the fid to the table while I'm doing this if I'm by myself. I just go over here and I take a clamp and clamp it down. Okay, that just makes it so that it can't move when I'm pushing on it. Then I take my rope and I'm going to go in here at Mark 3. Just push it in without catching any of those core strands. Okay, and go clear over to Mark 2. So here's Mark 2 right here. And right there, we're going to bend the rope sharply and shove the wire fid through the rope. You kind of have to wiggle it around a little bit, but it'll pop right out of there. Okay, see it coming right there? There we go. Okay. Okay, we don't need that string anymore, so we'll get rid of it. So we're going to take the core strands, or the cover strands, and put them in, just let them stick out about 1.5 inches or so. And then we're going to pull until those cover strands go down into the cover and come out over here at Mark 3. So we'll just pull just gently here on get them coming in. Okay, so now they're started in. Okay, at that point you can take your fid loose and okay, so now take your fid and clamp it over there, and when you pull, it'll pull that on through there. I'm going to move it a little so you can see what I'm doing. So I reverse this so my fid's over there on the cleat, and I can pull here. All I have to do is just kind of milk that, and it'll just come right on through like that. And now we're done with the fid there, at least for the moment. So I will take this end here, these core strands that are sticking out, and just clamp those into my vise. And then I can pull on that to bury the eye here. Before I do that, I have to cut these strands off that we pulled out earlier. Then we'll just take our scissors, cut them off at a slight angle. Just makes for a smoother transition. Okay, don't need that string anymore. So now I have the tail, the tapered tail of the cover over here clamped into my vise, and I'm going to put on my gloves because this is where you have to pull kind of hard to close the eye. And I just go over here and I basically get a hold of this and I keep tension on both sides of the eye and I milk the cover this direction. As I do that, you'll see the tapered part of the core will slide inside the core. Okay, just keep pulling until that eye closes down to a tight eye. At this point, I put a carabiner in the eye there because the eye is closing pretty tight now. And then just keep milking the cover strands this way as you pull tight on that eye. Okay. This is where you have to pull pretty hard. Okay. So there you can see that the eye is closed down. It's a nice tight eye. Give it one more shot just to get it really tight. Okay, good. So there is a nice tight eye. To finish the splice, we have to go back over and use our long fid again. So I'll go back over to the splicing table. Okay, so now that we have our eye closed up, the next step is to take the tail of the tapered core and stick it back into the rope right here at mark 3 and pull it out over here at mark 4. To do that, we need to use our wire fid. We just take the fid and we want to shove it through just inside the core or inside the cover and have it come out over here between the core strands and the cover strands. And it's really important when you do this not to get this fid tangled up in any of these core strands or you won't be able to pull it through. And you want to go through on the back side, not you wouldn't want to come out right here, you want to come out on the back side. So just take your fid, shove it between a couple of those cover strands and be really careful to kind of push it along the outside edge so you don't get it caught in those core strands. Take a peek in here and you should be able to see your fid coming out. Just shove it on out of there like that. And then take these cover strands and put them into the wire fid. Okay, about like that. Pull that down so it's starting to go in there. And then you're going to take these core strands and you're going to tie those around a solid object. I'm just going to use my cleat over here so you can see what's going on. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to pull on my wire fid and pull those strands. They'll go through here and they'll come out right over here at mark 4. So I just go over here and I pull hard on the fid. Keep pulling hard until those cover strands pop out of there. Okay, I don't need that string anymore. Now we just got to pull that down into there until all that goes inside. And so now we have both the core and the cover buried. And all we have to do to finish the splice is to equalize the core and the cover and taper these tails and pull them inside. Okay, so now we're ready to do the final bury on the core and the cover. To do that, we just attach one end of this to a cleat or some other solid object. And I put my gloves on so that I can pull hard. All right, so we're just going to pull on this real hard to kind of stretch it all out, and then we milk the cover back and forth until we get the core and the cover equalized. And do this a couple of times. Reverse the orientation, pull against the other side, core until they finally stop moving. Then you know you've got the orientation equalized. Okay, good. So now we have core and cover equalized. We just have to cut these tails off and taper them and pull them inside the rope. So the next thing you do is you mark the core strands and the cover strands where they come out of the rope with a felt tip marker. Just give them a good black mark there. And then you pull them out. Just pull hard until you get about 6 or 7 inches of the core and the cover exposed. So there's our black marks right there. Take your scissors and cut them off about 1/4 of an inch short of those black marks. Same thing over here on the cover strands, just about 1/4 of an inch short of those black marks. So now we have 8 core strands and we have 6 of the cover strands, and we want to taper those gradually as you go towards the end. So right about 6 inches back from where these core strands come out, cut off the first strand, and then go up about 3/4 of an inch or so and cut off the next strand. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So there's 7 of those strands cut off, so you get a nice long gradual taper. Over here on the cover, again back about 6 inches, you're going to cut off the first strand. Here we only have 6 strands, so we're going to cut off 5 of those strands for our taper. Cut them off at about inch and a half intervals. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so there is the taper on our cover and core strands. Now all we have to do is pull on this and they'll bury. And to do that, I'm going to go back over onto the cleat. So we'll put our gloves on again. And attach one end of this to the cleat. And we're going to go out here, we're going to pull on the other end, and when I do that, you'll see that these strands will bury. So just pull hard, it's like magic. And everything pops inside there, except for I did. All right, there we go. Yeah, there we go. All right, sometimes it wants to make it hard. Okay, anyway, at this point, just tilt that back and forth. And if you've done this splice correctly, when you rub your hands over that splice area, you shouldn't feel any bumps at all. It should be nice and smooth. All right, so that is a 16 strand splice in Samson Arborfreak rope. You need to do some kind of lock stitching in here to make sure the splice can never move after you splice it, but I've never seen one of these things even look like it's going to move, so they're pretty bomb-proof. So that's 16 strand splice in Samson Arborfreak. Thanks for watching.